Dr. Mariam Nouh. You are the VP of Economies of the Future at KACST, which is the national lab of Saudi Arabia. Welcome to our podcast. It's a very great pleasure to have you and to have the chance to ask you a few questions. I have one first question that is not necessarily the usual question that we ask you. How did you end up at KACST in this role? What is your history?
It's a long story, but let me try to summarize it. I always had a passion for research and development. I like to experiment with things. And that's why after like a career in private sector, in banking, I decided to switch to R&D, research and development. So I joined KACST more than 13 years ago. It's been a long journey from working in the labs to managing a small team until today managing a sector of Economies of the Future, focusing on 10 research institutes across different emerging technologies and space. It's very exciting. It keeps me awake at night, but I love what I do.
I can imagine, and Economies of the Future is one of the RDI priorities of the government of Saudi Arabia.
Exactly.
So I can imagine that if it's a priority, you are very busy.
Absolutely, yeah.
So my first question, official question this time for you would be, what are the key initiatives or programs that KACST is championing to accelerate the innovation in the kingdom and making sure that we have this economic diversification that the RDI priorities are tackling?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, KACST as a national lab for the kingdom, its goal and its main priority is to accelerate innovation and push really the boundaries of science and research to the next level. To do that, we have to always keep up with the existing innovation. What are the emerging technologies that we need to explore? So talking about the usual suspects, AI, robotics, Quantum is another important area that we are looking into, and really building around talent development, capability building, knowledge transfer, and this happens through our collaboration with local and international entities, and as well developing of use cases together with the industry. So as a national lab, we focus on applied research, taking the great work that's happening in the lab and then linking with the industrial partner to scale it up and not fall into having the research locked inside the lab. So you need to get it out there in order to generate that economic impact at the end.
So you're not the usual national lab that does R&D and stop here.
Exactly.
You're really going to the point that you want real application, commercialization of the R&D that is happening in the different labs that you're overseeing.
Exactly, and this transformation actually happened a couple of years ago when we established a new role for KACST, which is the Science and Technology Park. And the role here is basically to translate the research. So the great work that's happening in the lab, through our Science and Technology Park arm and collaboration with the industry, we scale up these kinds of outputs of research.
So it goes well with my next question. It's to understand how KACST contribute to fostering the knowledge-based economy, and more specifically, everything related to sustainability and competitiveness of the kingdom. So what is the contribution of KACST?
So the Vision 2030 aims to diversify beyond oil. And to do that, we have to look into the emerging market. And technology and digital is one of the key areas that we focus on, or at least me personally, under the Economies of the Future. As we mentioned in the beginning, the priorities for the research, development and innovation that was announced by the kingdom are 4 priorities: health and wellness, energy and industry, environment and sustainability, and finally economies of the future. So at KACST, we look at the 4 priority areas and really develop initiatives that target and solve our essential challenges. So this includes water, food, energy, societal challenges and needs. To give you an example, one of the initiatives that we're working on is related to smart cities or cities of the future. So we tackle issues related to crowd management, urban planning, utilizing AI, drones for last mile delivery for logistical application. And as a national lab, we have our campus open as a living lab. So we get to experiment with these different technologies in our campus in order to do some regulation-free testing, doing some experimentation of technologies that are developed, for example, abroad, and we want to localize it here in Saudi Arabia. So this flexibility of R&D and having a living lab to test and provide a lot of benefit to the economy or to the community as well. Mm-hmm. Another important initiative that we work on is related to empowering the startup. So within KACST we have the garage. I'm sure you heard about it. It's
a little bit.
A little bit. So it's an incubator and accelerator. It's focused on deep tech startups. And the beauty here is that startups incubated in the garage have access to all the labs in KACST. We have over 100 labs ranging from material science to digital to health sector. And by providing these startups with access to these labs, you can really see a lot of innovation and acceleration of technology happening there.
I was one of the consultants at the beginning of the initial ideas of the garage, and I can tell you that it's one of the projects that made me come here in Saudi Arabia, because I saw the passionate things that we can do in the garage. So definitely a very good example of how KACST goes the extra mile, not simply stopping at the research level, but creating the elements of ecosystem that is required. Just a subsidized question is, could you tell me if there is, in the economies of the future that you are looking at, you mentioned the smart cities, but do you see other sectors that are really interested in following the movement that you are initiating?
Of course. So smart city is one example, but space economy, for instance. So there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to downstream activities from space, remote sensing for climate change, for environment monitoring, desertification challenges. And we have a lot of work that's targeted towards building AI solution using space data to solve some of these challenges. To give you an example on this, so one of the projects that we worked on was related to a challenge with the Ministry of Environment, Water and Agriculture. And the challenge was that they had an issue monitoring the random farming that happens across the kingdom. As you know, the kingdom is huge, and it's difficult to monitor what kind of crops is being planted in different areas. And as Saudi Arabia, water is a scarce resource, so reserving underground water is a very important requirement or need. So what the team did is developed an AI model. Through satellite data, you can detect where farming is happening, identify the type of the crop, how much water it consumes, and then generate sort of an alert or a recommendation to the ministry that, for example, in this region there is particular kinds of crops are being planted and it consumes this number of water. So when we applied this project, in the first year we managed to save around 9 billion cubic meter of water for the kingdom.
God.
So this shows how, like, with emerging technology and applying it to existing challenge, you can actually help preserve some of the natural resources that we have.
This is extremely important work. Thank you for giving this example, because it shows that when research goes the extra mile, exactly, and find applications in the reality, yeah, we can have instantly outcomes that are positive. So that's a very, very good example. How do you see the emerging technologies reshaping industries in Saudi Arabia in general? because you mentioned, for instance, the satellite, you mentioned AI, but in general, do you see that the industries that you are serving or that will come at a certain point in Saudi Arabia, will they have enough of those emerging technologies in Saudi Arabia? Will they have access to it?
I think emerging technologies in general are reshaping the entire world.
Yes.
Globally.
You're
So
absolutely right.
there is no doubt of the impact and the benefit of adopting this across all sectors. So we have seen examples, for instance, on AI application for health. One of the startup companies in Saudi Arabia called Sedem by Dr. They developed an AI model that can, from an image of your eye, detect if you have diabetes or not and classify that. We have seen examples, for instance, in agriculture, in energy, and there is no limit. The possibilities are endless. I think in Saudi Arabia we have a very young population, very tech savvy, and adoption of new technologies, we see it happening very rapidly. So in some parts of the world there might be some challenges in adopting new technologies because of legacy systems. The way I see it here in Saudi Arabia, there is more appetite. There is a lot of programs by government and different organizations for sandboxing of new technology, for regulation, testing, and the appetite from government and private sector is very high. So I would say possibilities are endless, from space to deep sea to smart cities. There is numerous applications that we can do. And this is for existing, or let's say advanced or mature technologies. Now, if we look at quantum, for instance, and the possibilities that it can unlock, this is totally a different
We just
topic.
scratched the surface of what can happen to the kingdom. And I like to say that the beauty of what is happening in the kingdom is that because of our harsh environment, the fact that we have to deal with scarce resources like water, we are creating technologies that will serve the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, some countries will soon have to face what we are facing here in Saudi Arabia, and what we are preparing here for them is their future, actually.
Exactly.
I have another question, if you allow me. So it's about collaborations. We know that industry and the academic sector have to collaborate in order to make sure that the research can pass the chasm of being adopted and being on the market, because at a certain point everything is about adoption. So this collaboration is extremely important. What is the role of KACST in making sure that the transfer of technology between what is happening in the labs and what is going on in the industry is really happening?
So this is a decision we have made to always link our R&D activities with an industrial partner. So whether it's Aramco, Neom, IBM, Intel, KACST, since its start, since its foundation, was actually founded through a collaboration with NREL in the US for solar, for building a solar panel initiative.
Yes.
When we develop or focus on a particular project, we always look at who is the final customer, who would benefit from that particular technology. I'll give you an example on a project that we are currently actually working on with Ericsson on developing next generation connectivity lab for high throughput, low latency application. So together with Ericsson, we are conducting or we are establishing a lab to develop use cases, for example, targeted for the gaming sector. And the idea here is that through the technology and the know-how that Ericsson brings, through the scientists and researchers that we have in KACST, we can together develop use cases that solve local needs. So the way I see it, innovation has no boundaries and no geographical boundaries. So the best output or the best outcome happen when you collaborate, when you bring challenges from local ecosystem and apply technologies that have been developed elsewhere. And you might also generate new kind of innovations out of that.
Absolutely. My next question was on the global partnership, but you replied
yes.
indirectly on this. So I have another question then.
Please.
Another one that there is so many young people out there inside and outside Saudi Arabia. And when they see people like you, leaders that have such a very important position, you're VP in a national lab, probably they ask themselves, how can I become, me too, a leader in Saudi Arabia, helping the country to progress, helping the country to have R&D and innovation finally breached. What kind of advice you would give to a younger generation person, ambitious and with the desire to be in Saudi Arabia, a new leader?
This is a very important question. I think the key here is passion. So you have to work on something that you have a passion for. So first of all, it's passion. You have to work on something that you have strong passion for. Two, you have to have imagination. So dream big. Don't put any obstacles. Anything can be resolved as long as you have the passion, persistency, and education. So you have to equip yourself with good education to be able to reach where you want to go.
And Saudi Arabia is the nice environment for that, because you can have a fantastic education. You have the ecosystem. You told me about the sandbox. Even if you come with something crazy, we can test ideas in Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. I mean, in the garage today, we have startup companies sitting there from all around the world, from the US, from Asia, from Europe. And the idea is that they're working together with local entrepreneurs, local startup, local researcher in KACST labs. And the amount of inspiration and innovative idea that is generated is fascinating. Like whenever I have time, I pass by the garage, I stumble upon some like two entrepreneurs having this crazy idea and working on it. It's always inspiring for me.
You are inspiring, Dr. Mariam.
Thank you
so much for being present with us on the KPMG booth. And I can't wait to see what are the amazing things that KACST will do in the coming years until the Vision 2030 will be fully applied.
Inshallah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being with you.
Thanks.
Take care.